and welcome to the tutorial solution of question 4 on the NGBAM Python worksheet. So question 4 reads, select the mass of the body that experiences a gravitational force greater than 100 newtons but less than 700 newtons. So this question is essentially an extension of question 3, and it is trying to make us apply a more complex if statement or conditional statement to the data we have. And what this question is also trying to make us see is that if there are two arrays that are related either by an equation, in this case the force is related to the mass via the gravitational constant, as you can see in equation 1, we need to put in a mass value, multiply that by the gravitational constant to get our force. So because those two arrays are related, we can perform a task or an instruction on one array, either the force array or the mass array, because they are related. And we can use that function we've performed on one array to perform a data extraction or any other task on the other array, simply because they are related. So if you remember in question 3, we were told to select the gravitational force, but in question 4 here we're being asked to select the mass of the bodies that experience a force that is less than 700 newtons but greater than 100 newtons. So to do this, we would take the same approach as question 3. And what we need to first do, since this is a data extraction question, the first thing we need to do is create a variable or an empty array like we did in question 3, where we can store the results from our data extraction. So I'll simply call this array data2, and you can call it anything you want, equals empty square brackets. Then I'll try to implement my for loop. Similar to question 3, I would say for I, which is the position of a value in the array I'm interested in this case the force array, because the question asked for a force that is less than 100 newtons, that is greater than 100 newtons rather, and less than 700 newtons. So I would say for I, which is the index or the position of the value of the forces in the force array, comma value, which is the value of the data at any given position in the array, in enumerate, which means, like I described in solution to question 3, which enumerate means assign a position or an index to every data in a given array, and the array we are interested in this case is the force array or the force data set. So I can then apply my conditional statement or my criteria in this case, which is stated in question 4, that the force has to be less than 700 newtons but greater than 100 newtons. So to do this, I'll use an if statement. So what this says is that for all the values given their position in the force array, if that value is greater than 700, so this is one condition like we assigned in question 3, but to add the second condition, which is the fact that the value in that data set needs to be greater than 100, I can use the AND function or AND statement. I can say AND value greater than 100 newton. In this case, this statement means if the value in the force array is less than 700 and if the same value we're looking at is greater than, so this has to be less than 700, and if that value is greater than 100, store it in our empty data set, which is called data2. And to do this, we use the append function in this case, which is data, the name of our array that we want to store the data in, data2 dot append, then in brackets. In this case, what question 4 is trying to get us to do is to use one array to get results from another array. So because our force and mass are related by equation 1, the position of each data set is the same because they are the same size, as you can see in the variable explorer. The force has a size of 5, the mass has a size of 5 as well. So what we can then do is link these values together, because all we've done is essentially multiply each data in the mass array by 9.8 to get this data here. So this position here corresponds to this position here in the force array. This position in the mass array corresponds to this position in the second data point of the force array. The last data point corresponds to this position in the force array, so they have the same position, if you get what I'm trying to say. So because the question has asked us to select the mass of the body instead of the gravitational force, and knowing that they have the same size and the mass and the force array are related, we can then pick out the position in the force array, because that position in the force array would be the same position in the mass array. So you can then say mass, then square brackets I. So this I value here, that position there, if the value in the force array meets this condition we've created using our if statement, take the value of the mass that corresponds to that force by using the position of the value in the force array that meets this condition. So from there we can then go out here and simply say that print data2, and we can run it, and what we should see is that we get two masses, 70 and 40, and our mass here 70 in our variable explorer, mass 70 and 40. By the time we multiply them by the gravitational constant, we can see in our force array, yes, 70 is the third value, which is, if you remember, Python starts assigning position from 0. So 0, 1, 2, that's the second position or second index in our data, corresponds to the second position in the force array. So that value is less than 700 but greater than 100. The same for the fourth data point, which is also the third index, if you think about the same reason that Python starts from 0. So that would be 0, 1, 2, 3. So 40 times 9.81 gives 392.4. So that value here as a force that is greater than 100 but less than 700 Newton, and the mass of that body that meets that condition is 40. So hence why in our terminal here we get 70 and 40. And this is a way to approach question 4, given the hints where it's required you to use a for loop, the enumerate function, an if statement, and an and function. Thank you for listening.